Mm-hmm. Oh, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. That was a weird transition. I was in the wrong mode there. I apologize. But yeah, looking at the slate that we have, it's a 7-game slate. We did just get news that Tyrese Halliburton going to be active against Portland, potentially some value there. We're going to have to refresh the data to see kind of what happens there. What are your initial thoughts for this slate?
Yeah, man, it is tough to find value tonight. I mean, it's a pretty decent sized slate. I don't mind how many games we have. It does stretch from 7 to 10:30, so you're going to want to stay by your computer if you are playing. But yeah, man, I think we're stuck kind of in these balanced builds tonight. Like, I really want to play Embiid. It's almost impossible, even on FanDuel, where it's usually pretty easy to fit him. I'm playing guys like Pat Beverly again, which I never feel good about. Nick Batum's up to 5K. I'm still considering him. Like, this is not fun, man. I mean, I'm hoping we get some weird news, but it sounds like we have most of it. I don't think we're going to get much value. No Trae Young, but that really just creates opportunity for the rest of the starters. There's not like there's someone coming off the bench that we love or anything. So
and that's kind of where we can start with the news. There is kind of the Trae Young news. So I would argue DeJounte Murray is a little bit too low owned on the slate. Bogdanovic seems to be correctly owned. From there, Bay I think is a little bit too cheap and a little bit under owned. Jalen Johnson, always a GPP play. It seems like at 36 projected minutes. Kind of what are your thoughts there for Atlanta?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's under-owned. I think people are afraid to play people against Miami. I get it. It's a tough matchup. But, I mean, when you're getting that extra opportunity, you got to go to Murray here. We've been playing a ton of Jalen Johnson. I mean, the price is up on him.
Yeah.
Still like to get to him, though. I mean, Bay feels too cheap. Bogdanovic, if he starts, feels good. I don't mind a little Okongwu over on DK. Like, that is the one spot I do like a lot. But it's not like anything's dirt cheap. Like, we don't have anything sub 4K or anything like that. Unless you want to go to something like Garrison Matthews, who I don't feel great about. So yeah, it's a good spot. I agree. Murray is probably the most under-owned play on the slate. I'm gonna have a ton of him. Only playing a handful of lineups tonight because I am doing Discord right after this, but I think I'll have Murray in all of them, honestly.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I have about 5 deep right now, and he's in all of them. Obviously, I could change that as the when night progresses, but that was kind of my starting point too. Let's see here. Other injury news. I mean, we still got the same people out for Philly. Charlotte, Nick Richards game time decision. He's expected to play, so that doesn't change much. But on the other side of that game, we got the Spurs. We know that Wemby's out. To me, I instantly wanted to go to Keldon Johnson and or Zach Collins. Neither of them are popping up data-wise too much, and that's just – it seems like we're back to the old Spurs of last year where we can't accurately project players to get like over 30 minutes on a nightly basis. Like maybe a little bit of Trey Jones, maybe Sohan, maybe Vessel. Yeah, that's right. Maybe those three, they're projected to get 30 minutes. What are your kind of thoughts for the Spurs? Are you finding any better plays with Wemby out?
No, I mean, those three are my favorites, and, like, it's tough. Like, usually with Wemby out, we'd love Zach Collins here, but the issue is he's coming back from an injury, so we don't know if he's going to be limited. We did get word that he's going to start, but even towards, like, the end of his run before he got hurt, he wasn't even playing 20 minutes per night. So, I mean, he's going to get popular, especially at that price. I do think he has upside here. It's a great matchup, which makes it even tougher to get away from. But, yeah, I love the Sochan price on DK, love the Trey Jones price, and Devin Vassell. They're all cheaper than they are on FanDuel. I'm actually getting to them on FanDuel as well. Those three are the three that I trust. But yeah, I mean, Keldon's been inconsistent. Collins has been good when he gets minutes, but we're dealing with Greg Popovich. I don't know that they need to go big here against the Charlotte team who was a banged up Nick Richards, and really not much else in that front court.
I will say I do have a little bit of appeal in playing Barlow, just a little bit. He's projected to get 18 minutes. Maybe Zach Collins doesn't play the full 24 projected minutes that we have. Maybe it's only 20, and then Barlow picks up the slack just a little bit. Not specifically on DraftKings at 4.3, but like right now, as it says, where he's projected to get 18.7 minutes, does feel a little bit too thin as is.
Yeah, man. I know. It's tough because it's such a good game. But yeah, man, they got flat rotations there. It's a deep bench.
Then I do want to touch on Indy a little bit as well, just because obviously they did a little bit of a shakeup there. Pascal Siakam is going to start tonight. Naismith is still currently questionable. We have him projected to play. And then Halliburton active. I wonder if his ownership is going to go up or people are just kind of taking the wait and see approach with Siakam now there. Kind of what are your thoughts on Indy? Is there anyone in play or are they all kind of maybe just priced up now?
I mean, it's a great matchup first and foremost against the
Yeah.
Blazers. I don't mind Halliburton here. I mean, his bigger games are the ones where he's having like 16, 17, 18 assists. I think Siakam has more points in transition than anyone in the NBA. Like, this is such a good fit, honestly. Like, I really, really like that they went and made this trade,
Yeah.
also for real basketball reasons. But I do think Halliburton can still hit ceilings. It's just going to come on assists more than anything else. Tonight is tricky because he is coming back from injury. Not as scared of playing him as I am Collins, but you are paying up. And again, we don't really have value on this slate. So it's tough for me to prioritize him over someone like DeJounte Murray, who's 2K cheaper.
Yeah.
I think if you could get to Halliburton, you're fine with it. It's just such a good matchup. But at the same time, I mean, it's tough to pay up at all tonight, which is unfortunate because there are a few pay ups I would love to get to.
So what about Siakam at all? Because his price didn't really change from his role in Toronto, and we know he was kind of splitting the workload there. To me, he does kind of seem like the true number two now in this offense. And if we're kind of banking on Halliburton to get those assists, especially in this matchup, I don't know, it's a good matchup for Siakam. Like first game with the team, I could buy into that narrative of him potentially be giving us GPP winning upside.
Yeah, he definitely has a ceiling here. I don't mind him as kind of a large field, high risk tournament play.
No.
It is tricky though. I mean, with these trades, I mean, the Toronto trade, all those guys seem to play plenty of minutes their first game in. That's not always the
Yeah.
case though. They could try to acclimate him slowly. I don't know. It's for Carlisle. Again, very tough
Yeah.
coach to read. I like him here as a tournament play, but again, I'm only playing a handful of lineups tonight. It's tough to pay up for anything, so I'm just not getting to him because of the slate. Like, if we had more value open up elsewhere, I'd feel better about it. But yeah, if you're landing on him, he definitely has a ceiling.
And then I do want to just kind of go over Miami as well, kind of their spot as well. So Duncan Robinson currently game time decision. Jaquez is out. So that obviously does open up some usage, but we're seeing everyone for Miami kind of feels a little cheap to me. Kyle Lowry, 4K, not a player that I really want to get to. Jovic is a player that we were playing a lot. If Duncan Robinson sits, I could see playing him. Kevin Love, his price came down a little bit. But Jimmy Butler, 7.6 on DraftKings. They're all a little bit too cheap on DraftKings is kind of my point here. And Bam, pretty good spot going against Atlanta as well. Are you liking any of Miami tonight?
Yeah, I mean Butler, especially on DK, 7,600 is just too cheap for him. He's been fine since he's been back. I know Trey Young's out, so Atlanta's not going to play as fast as they usually do, but this still should be a paced up spot for the Heat. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. The issue with maybe going to Jovic, and I don't mind him, is that they did get Caleb Martin back. And yeah, Kevin Love's healthy too. Highsmith is healthy. Like the biggest Jovic games came with a few of these other guys out as well. Lowry is tempting, I will say, at his price. I mentioned before we got on stream that I'm getting to some Pat Beverly. I don't know, man. Lowry's a pivot. I honestly think I prefer Beverly, but they're very similar plays. Like I don't feel good about either. Lowry probably plays more minutes, but Pat does have the higher fantasy point per minute rate with the Melton out for Philly. So I don't know. I could see landing on Lowry just because of the way the slate shakes out. There's just no good value that is that cheap. So like, do I like Lowry as a play? No, but might he be necessary tonight? Maybe.
And I guess since you brought it up, let's jump into Philly a little bit as well because they are still banged up. So they're going to be without Melton, Covington, Mo Bamba. They're all going to be out. And so for me, I still kind of like Batum a little bit, but he's not someone I'm like going out of my way to play. He's too high priced now. So like to your point, Patrick Beverly, his price is still a little bit. It's creeping up there as well. You mentioned you like Embiid. Maxey almost feels a little bit too cheap. Do you like anyone here with that injury situation? I mean, Tobias Harris a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. FanDuel seems correctly priced.
Yeah, I mean, first, it's not a great matchup against Orlando. I will say that. But Embiid's been matchup proof. If you can get to him, he's my favorite pay up on the slate tonight. There's a few to choose from. I mean, we have Joker, we have Tatum facing off against each other. We got the Lakers late against the Nets. But if I can have one true pay up tonight, it is Embiid here against Goga and Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, he's just been awesome. But again, there's no value, so he's very tough to get to. I will say I don't mind Pat Beverly. He's been decent with Melton out. I think Jaden Springer's out tonight as well, which should secure him like 25 or 30 minutes, which is enough for me to get there. But yeah, I'm with you on Batum. It's like I think he's fine as like a last piece in, but you're not going to get more than like 20, 25 fantasy points. But
Mhm.
it feels like one of those slates where you have to plug in a couple of those 5K guys and just take the 20 points and just hope everything else works out.
Yeah.
Again, just no value. I would like to maybe get to Marcus Morris, but he's been super disappointing lately. Don't think I can pull the trigger since I'm only playing a handful of lineups. So yeah, love Embiid, but he's almost impossible to get to. I'm going to be playing some Pat Beverly, and I do not feel good about it.
So with that, I think we should pivot into kind of some questions here, and we're gonna start with centers because of the first question from Jose, who typically tunes into our videos, so I appreciate that. So he needs help with centers today. Is it better to pay up or pay down? So I kind of think we just start at the center spot here, and
Yeah,
we
let's
kind of
do it.
already mentioned Embiid as well as a play. So I don't think we need to rehash him as a play. It seems like he's a solid pay up play though, for sure. Other than that, you got Jokic in a good spot. You got Anthony Davis in a good spot, who just his price hasn't been coming up at all. In terms of OF index, it does start to get a little bit thin, but that comes with the pricing. I will say, if Nick Richards were to somehow be ruled out, even though he warmed up, so I'm expecting him to play, Miles Bridges being center eligible on DraftKings would be a very intriguing play to me. But to me, I don't know. It feels like we're paying up. Maybe playing a power forward in center. Honestly, what are your kind of thoughts for the center spot tonight?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do end up on a power forward. Honestly, I don't feel great about it, but I was getting to Claxton in some of my early builds.
Yeah,
He's kind of mid range. The thing with him is Day'Ron Sharp's out, so that's securing minutes for him. He's been kind of up and down. Obviously, it's not a good matchup against that Lakers front court, but I do think he's going to have to play 30 plus minutes against a big squad here. So I feel decent about him at his price point. I don't mind the Nick Richards play on DK. I don't love the FanDuel price, but at 5,200, he's kind of tough to get away from. Again, the San Antonio front court's kind of banged up. I think Zach Collins is going to draw a lot of ownership now, but this is tough, man. I mean, we got to project his minutes. And right now, the site, we have him for 25 minutes. If I was confident he was going to play 25, I'd say he's one of the better center plays point per dollar. Again,
yeah,
with no Wemby out. But am I confident in that? No, not necessarily. The last three games he played were all under 20 minutes. They do seem to want to get Barlow more involved recently. So, yeah, if he's popular, I don't know that I want to go there. But yeah, man, I mean, everything else is pretty expensive. Like, it doesn't feel good. I mean, Larry Nance, honestly, on DK, 4,400 in
yeah.
tournaments, coming off a
I
game
can
where he
see
only had
it.
20 fantasy points. But it's a back to back. In most back to backs, he does play a few less minutes on the front end. We've seen that a few times this season. So I think we could maybe get him up to 24 minutes here, which at 4,400 is fine. A little more expensive on FanDuel, but you could put him over at power forward. So he's someone I could see getting to. And then DeAndre Ayton's back tonight. Kind of a similar situation as Zach Collins, but I do think Ayton's healthier. This isn't a bad matchup for him, so I don't mind going to
Yeah,
Ayton as a tournament center either. But yeah, man, I don't. I would love to pay up. The best options are the pay ups, but again, there's just no value, so it's tough to get there. So I'm landing on Claxton, I'm landing on Ayton, I'm mixing in Nance, and then yeah, I think I like Richards a little bit more maybe than I should.
yeah.
And if we somehow got word from Pop that Collins wouldn't have a minutes limit, I'd load up on Collins. But Pop's not the type of coach to let that thing
Yeah.
slip pregame.
I really like to call him Nance. I like it's just he feels like a safe play, like just as price that he's been too cheap. They need to give him like a $300 price bump, really on both sites, but DraftKings for sure. So I like that call. That was not a player I was on previously that I like. I will be getting to Zach Collins. Just I play on DraftKings mostly,
Yeah.
unless there's egregious value on FanDuel, and he's a little bit too cheap there. 24 minutes at that price tag for me, it's just like I'm okay with that. And I'm if he gets 20, probably still going to hit value. And then for DraftKings purposes, I do want to call up, and you called this out earlier, Anika Gamku, just the price difference there on both sites is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely chalk for a reason because he's just too cheap. So that is one that does stand out.
Yep.
What? No, Jonathan Isaac chalk tonight. I know on our last stream, like it was Isaac and Joe Ingles were both chalk for
Oh God.
seemingly no reason, and it's the exact same spot. Our chat is blowing up about Goga or Wendell Carter as well for Orlando. So I kind of feel like we should just talk about Orlando a little bit here. I was semi joking there, but
Yeah, I mean it's a terrible matchup. I mean they're facing off against Embiid,
yeah.
but I mean you look at the prices; they're both too cheap on DK.
Mhm.
They're both probably going to play 24 minutes. It seems like they want to kind of split that down the middle, which limits their upside and makes me not really interested on FanDuel. But yeah, if you want to go to Goga, he is the starter. But maybe if he gets in foul trouble, you could get Carter over 24 minutes. But yeah, if knowing they're both going to play 24 minutes against Embiid, I don't feel great about it. But it looks like we did just get word that Nick Richards is out. So, maybe that's going to open up Nick Mensa, PJ Washington. Someone's going to have to start at center.
Yeah, I mean, I think PJ Washington becomes more appealing, assuming he comes off the bench. We just seen him have a higher usage. The issue that I have is LaMelo Ball's there, so we have seen PJ Washington at the start of the season didn't really have as big of a role as I was expecting. So I feel like that's not a lock and load. But I don't know, is Miles Bridges going to start at center? Like that's
I know. I just started digging into this the second this news dropped. Like, there's a few different ways they could go. Like, they could just start Washington. I think that would make sense. They have gone to Bridges at times. I don't know. I think the most sense would be Washington, in which case I'd love him here. I think he'd make a lot of sense. But we have seen them go to JT Thor once, which is hideous.
Yeah.
But if Nick Mensa were to get the start, I actually like him as value. So I think we got to wait and see. The good news is it is the first game on the slate.
Yeah.
So we should have this lineup hopefully before the stream ends. And if not, I'll be in Discord piecing through this as well. But, I mean, we're struggling for value right now. So we're about to get some here, even if it's Washington. 5,900 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK. I think he's going to be tough to get away from.
Yeah, I think both him and Bridges I'm going to be ending up on more for sure. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how much. And that might depend on ownership. Like if Washington shoots up to, let's say 40%, that I might get on him a little bit less or just depending on my build, maybe I'll eat the chalk. It kind of just becomes very situational then. But yeah, you're right. If I don't want to butcher his name, but Mensa, is that
I think
close enough?
Nathan Mensa, I think that's it. Yeah.
If he does start at the min price, it all it takes is probably 25 minutes for him to hit value. That's definitely interesting. But I'm going to guess Miles Bridges. That's my guess, starting at center. And then
my guess is Washington.
But I guess because before it was what Hayward was there, right?
Yeah.
So they would start him at the 4.
But yeah, if they do go to Bridges, that would mean Cody Martin would slide into the starting lineup as a wing, in which case Cody Martin would actually be really, really appealing to value. So.
We'll jump back into this spot.
Yeah, it matters. It definitely matters.
So with that, we were getting a couple of questions about guards and whatnot. Unless I'm missing any other questions, I think we can jump into the guards. So
yeah, we go.
Let me just see here. So we'll start with this question, which was about the guards, about Simons. So if he is out, he just got downgraded about an hour ago. Are we looking at Malcolm Brogdon or Scoot Henderson? I think that's a good starting point. So let's go ahead and kind of answer that question. And I'll kind of let you. I mean, I'll start. I'll say Scoot Henderson I really like in that situation if Simons is out, because then Sharp is still out and he's just going to shoot the basketball a ton. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think either of them. It would be kind of a pseudo-revenge narrative here for Brogdon as well. And Brogdon's really cheap on DK at 5,400. So if Brogdon starts, I think he might start even if Simons is in. I like him. Scoot, the price is up on him, man. 7K on DK, 6,500 on FanDuel. Definitely has a very high ceiling. And the other good thing with Scoot is he does play if this game were to blow out. It is a back-to-back for the Pacers, but Halliburton and Siakam both rested last night. So maybe they have fresh legs and they could take over this one. But I don't know. Assuming the game stays close, I think they're both good plays. You probably don't want both in one lineup, but I think either Brogdon or Scoot could pay off for you here. It's just much easier to get to Brogdon because he is cheaper.
The thing with Scoot is like we have seen him get minutes, and when he gets minutes, he's like we see 31 shot attempts, 21 shot attempts. He's not shooting the basketball well, but like he has definitely put an emphasis on shooting the basketball more. So I guess the minutes aren't scary. I would love to see the minutes if Simons is out. That if it shoots up to 35, then yeah, I would really like it. If it stays at like 30, yeah, probably a little bit too high price. So that's one where I'd probably just default to the data, honestly, like was for sure.
It's totally fair.
So yeah, let's jump into the rest of the guards that we have here. Sorted by OF Index, the top plays are Halliburton, no shock there. LaMelo Ball on DraftKings, his price came down. That could be interesting. Terry Rozier, also a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. DeJounte Murray, also a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. I'm trying to get you into playing DraftKings tonight is what I'm really trying to do.
I know. You're tempting me.
Maxey's also too cheap. But then on the flip side, let's see. Are there any values on FanDuel? I need to see this. Reeves, Jamal Murray. Buddy
Yeah, I
Hield.
think. Yeah, I mean, I like that late game for the Lakers. Reeves and Russell both look fine to me. I don't know that you want both, but they're both kind of priced about where they should be. They've been pretty solid lately. With Cam Reddish out, they've both seen increased usage. So, and not that Reddish takes up a lot of usage, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's a spacing thing or what. I'd have to dig into it. But Reeves makes sense. Russell makes some sense on FanDuel. I mentioned before I'm getting the Pat Bev, which I don't feel good about. But yeah, I mean, on DK, Trey Jones might be my favorite guard play on the entire slate, assuming he starts. Love the matchup against Charlotte. He's been solid. Don't know why the price on him didn't go up. It went up to 6,700 on FanDuel, and I still kind of like him. So over on DK, I think it's a no brainer. But yeah, I mean, the real no brainer play on this slate is DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
No Trey Young. Whenever he's out, you just load up on him. Not even 40% owned on either site right now. I think maybe because if people pay up at other positions, he's tough to get to. But for me, I'd rather build balance and go heavy on Murray. So I'm getting to a ton of DeJounte Murray here. And yeah, LaMelo looks good, but so does Rozier. I think you go to either of those guys. But yeah, it's tough to pay up tonight for me, other than Murray. I just love Murray.
Yeah, I guess like with Ball and Rozier, like I could see myself doing some sort of game stack where I'm also playing Trey Jones, Vessel, and then probably Collins. Like I could see myself doing that, but I don't know, a little bit too thin. And then Bogdanovich, I feel like he's the easy play on both sides. But I do want to get your thought on Trey Jones. So he has been super consistent, but I think it was you, maybe it was Jayhawk, called out, or maybe it was Chuck. It wasn't me. Called out that when Trey Jones has started to play better, it was kind of with Wemby getting more minutes, and we just kind of saw him act as a natural point guard and whatnot. So is that maybe potentially a worry that Wemby's out and Trey Jones maybe doesn't have as easy of assists and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean the assists should come down, but the thing is the usage is going to be similar. Like he should be able to take a few more shots here. And I mean the bigger thing is that it's just such a good matchup for the Spurs.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the teams they play are going to play him off the floor. The Hornets aren't one of those teams. So I love Trey Jones, and I think it was me. Like the thing with Jones is all
Yeah.
season I've just said, why are we trying to put Soche in a point guard? Like why is Pop so set on having like a very tall point guard? It's really weird. Um,
It is.
but yeah, I mean, they tried Branham there. They had like he was doing all this weird stuff. But Trey Jones is the best point guard on that roster. Um, and yeah, as long as he's starting, I'm going to continue playing him. I mean, FanDuel did up his price. He's much easier to get to on DK. But other than the Atlanta guys, and I was going to talk about Bogdan, I think, when we got the forwards, but Trey is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. And Vassell as well, man. I mean, he's going to be popular here, but more consistent than Keldon or anyone else, really, with Wemby out. I know he has a few kind of shaky games if you're looking at his game log, but again, those are with
Yeah.
Wemby in much tougher matchups. I do think we see a good game out of Vassell here.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit too hit or miss to your point to fully trust, but at the same time, who cares? Like it's NBA DFS, like we're shooting
Yeah.
for a ceiling most of the time, so
Mm,
like I'm okay with that. But yeah, let's jump into forwards, and we'll touch on Bogdanovich to start, just because he's kind of the clear cut play there, whether guard or forward, wherever you're playing, Matt, depends on the site maybe. But we just expecting him to get a lot of usage, and not only that, to just shoot the basketball a ton, right?
mhm. Yeah, he's projected to start. I think we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. I do think he will, even off the bench. He's gonna have to see more minutes tonight, and yeah, I mean, even more than Murray, he's gonna be probably the most aggressive player on offense here. Just too cheap, especially on DK. Again, not a great matchup, but with Trey out, it's just such a big boost for everyone else. He's good chalk on both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree there. And then one player with his teammate that I also kind of like a little bit, and I think he's a little bit more sneaky than maybe he should be. I'll look at his ownership here in a second. Bay, he's been
Mhm.
playing a lot of minutes. DeAndre Hunter's still out, and sure, is he safe? I mean, no. He's one of those players where at his pricing, I'm fine taking the risk. Like if he gives me 35 fantasy points while getting 38 minutes in this game, I like that, and it's a decent spot for him. He's a player that I was a little bit shocked wasn't more chalk, 17% on DraftKings FanDuel. I guess he is chalk. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on him as a play?
No, I like him as well. I mean, I don't know that he's going to ever get you 40 fantasy points or anything like that. But again, on tonight's slate, like you're going to have to play some of these 5 to 6K range guys and just be happy that you can get to 30, 35 points and just hope everything else works out. He fits that mold. I feel good about his floor, which is more than I can say about a lot of other
Yeah,
plays on this
yeah,
slate. Yeah, I really like Bay. Again, increased usage for this whole team here. And it's not like these guys coming off the bench are really going to take much from them. Like, other than a Kongu on DK, who does look good, he's forward eligible. You're dealing with guys like Trent Forrest, Garrison Matthews, AJ Griffin. Like, none of these guys are players I trust to take a lot of shots. So whoever's on the floor, whether it's Bey, Bogdanovich, Murray, I think they're really going to get whatever they want here.
And then just because he's a forward as well, and he's probably our favorite player for the Occupy YouTube live. Jalen Johnson. So he is projected to get like 38 minutes again tonight. It is a more difficult matchup, but again, with Trae Young out, maybe Bogdanovich, who's the obvious play, maybe he struggles, and maybe Jalen Johnson gets a few more shot attempts up. I'm trying to find a narrative here. Obviously, it's not the best matchup, but like, what are your kind of thoughts on him tonight?
Yeah, I like him just as much as the others, and he's going to be a little bit lower owned because he's more expensive. But yeah, it's not going to surprise me at all if he ends up the highest scoring Hawk here. He's done it a few times this season, even with Trae in. A couple rough games back to back, which I think is hopefully keeping his ownership down, but he's played 37 plus in back to back games. And yeah, I mean, I think he only had one bad game. I don't even know why I'm saying that, but I love him here. And all of us at Occupy love Jalen Johnson. We've been playing him since he was like 4,500. So now that he's in the 7K range, maybe some people don't want to be playing him here, but this is where he should be priced. And this is where he was going to be priced even with Trae in. So why not? I mean, because I'd probably be going to him even with Trae Young in the lineup at even lower ownership. So yeah, mix him in. Probably better in lineups where you're not already playing Murray, Bogdanovich, and Bey. But yeah, I won't be surprised at all if he gets to 50.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, going against Miami, what is it? Maybe a max of 2 against Miami for the Hawks? Maybe I don't want to go 4.
I think 3 is fine. Yeah, three seems good to me.
Okay. And then, yeah, just looking at the rest of the forwards here, looking at it and DK value wise. So Sohan is one of the best values, 5.2 on DraftKings, not as good of a value on FanDuel. Anika is a pretty good value. We kind of know that. Bey, we already touched on. And then we're getting into Jabari Walker, Taurean Prince, Jimmy Butler, Okeke, Davis, Zion on DraftKings. Do you like any of those plays as values on DraftKings?
Zion, I do. Whenever Zion's below 8K, I like him. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a ceiling out of him, but we know he has it. And the minutes have been there for him. He's playing fine. I don't know. Everyone's really critical of Zion, but I mean, he's been playing well enough. And I think in this game against the Suns, it should be competitive. He should see as many minutes as he can handle. So I like Zion. He's pretty popular over on FanDuel, which I understand. But honestly, I think he's still underpriced on both sites. He's kind of an 8K guy, in my opinion. And as long as he's sub 8K, I'm just going to keep playing him. The Jabari Walker chalk on FanDuel is kind of surprising to me. 27% owned. I mean, if Simons is out, I think it does make some sense. He's probably going to start regardless. He's been starting over Kamara suddenly. It is a great matchup against the Pacers, but at the same time, I mean, he's not a guy who demands a lot of usage. He's had a few good games, but those games actually came with 8 and out of the lineup. So while I don't think he's a terrible play, I think at his ownership on FanDuel, he kind of is, just because he has a very low floor. And yeah, there's not many guys that are even close to his ownership at forward tonight. I mean, the only 2 guys owned over him are plays we just discussed in Bey and Williamson. I like those a lot. Really like Miles Bridges, who's right behind him, and I imagine it's going to keep climbing. But yeah, Jabari Walker, man, 27%. What are we doing?
That's got to correct. This feels like, and it probably won't. I know on the last stream I was on, like with the Bucks, I guess people ended up being correct. They got blown out, but like that ownership should have came up and it just didn't. And I know like it didn't work out, but like literally it should have came up and it just didn't. Maybe it's just one of those nights where people are stuck on what they were on earlier on in the day and there's just not enough time for them to react to the news. But it does seem like Charlotte wise, the ownership's coming up. Miles Bridges is coming up a little bit. And I think, who is it? Brandon Miller is starting to be chalky. Yeah. So PJ Washington, though, still not too high owned. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we need that lineup. I'm really hoping. I'm looking at one site who I won't name, but they're actually projecting Mensa to get the start, which would be interesting. He'd be very appealing as value. But again, this is just a projection. We have no word yet. But as soon as we get that Charlotte lineup, that's a key piece of news right now.
It is. So kind of to the point of like the value that we have on tonight's slate, like Zion's super cheap, Ball's super cheap, like Jimmy Butler's super cheap. You could make like a stud-based build with players that are typically not as like high priced, like Jimmy Butler under 8.5 on DraftKings specifically. LaMelo Ball under 9K. Like it's just kind of crazy that you could make a lineup with like 5-star players in the league and probably feel pretty good about it. It's the pricing is definitely soft, but that's also I think because we don't have any value.
Right. Right. And yeah, I think that's the way to go, honestly. Like build in the mid range. I think like in most lineups, your most expensive guy might be DeJounte Murray. Um, I'm like I said, I'm only playing 4 or 5 lineups tonight. I'm gonna force Embiid into one, and it's gonna be a bad lineup. But yeah, without more value, it's just tough. I mean, if Benson does get the start, we're gonna be able to pay up for some of these other guys. But right now, I think yeah, you're stuck in the mid range, but just lean into it. Find those mid range plays that are a little bit underpriced and a little bit under owned compared to some of the other spots we're looking at, and yeah, you can still come out on top.
Our data for Charlotte is it seems like it might be favoring Martin to start because he's up to 26 minutes now. So it's definitely interesting there. But Mensa is projected to get 15 minutes, and at min price, you get a center at min price, 15 minutes. It really doesn't matter, but it's a very good matchup, a matchup that could blow out really either way. Maybe he gets 20 minutes, regardless of if he starts or not. So he is someone that I was not even thinking about to start the day, honestly.
Right.
And now I might end up on him.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it really depends on that lineup. And the other thing, too, even if PJ Washington doesn't start, he's probably going to see some extra run here. So I'm going to like Washington regardless at his price. But again, I mean, on a slate where we're like scratching our necks here hoping for value, I think Mensa could open a lot of things up if he does end up getting the start there.
And then that kind of leads into Courtney's question. What price range are we looking for chalk on DK? It honestly is somewhat spread out, but it's really just the 6 to 5K range, it seems like. Bogdanovich, Sohan, PJ Washington, and then you got Anika at 4.3. Like that seems to be like the, I don't want to say easy chalk, but like it's the easy chalk to eat tonight.
Yeah. The highest owned plays are in that 5K range, like Sochan, Trey Jones, and who was it, Bogdanovich. But yeah, I really like Murray. I'd add him to that group as kind of a core play. But yeah, there's no really cheap value right now, unfortunately.
That's a good pivot. I already put Murray in the first look build, and so let's kind of hammer that out here. The issue that I see is that like Anika, I feel like we just kind of have to eat the chalk. At Bogdanovich, I feel like we have to play. Are you fine with that? Like, I don't feel great about having 3 instant Atlanta plays, but kind of feels like the move.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is. I think we just do it, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, the more I think about it on DK, I think since I do like Okongwu's price, it's not insane to play 4. Like, you can play Bay, Bogdan, Murray, Okongwu, or Jalen for one of those guys. And again, it's just the product of the slate. Sometimes it is what it is. If you don't have value and there's one team with their star out, I mean, you're going to have to load up on that team.
Yeah. Let's see here. So for forward, I feel like we have to play one of the forwards for Charlotte, whether that be maybe cheap Martin. It could be Miles Bridges or PJ Washington, or we just play PJ Washington and Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with either or both. Miller, I have trouble trusting right now. He seems kind of banged up. So if you want to go Bridges and or Washington, I think that's the move.
All right. I'll do Washington for sure right now. I think we're going to have salary left over. We could easily go to Bridges or Ball or Rozier to come back to it. Mm-hmm. And then other chalky ownership. I mean, Zach Collins is pretty chalk on DraftKings. Malcolm Brogdon obviously would be a play that we're on if Simons is out. Did you want to pay it for Embiid? Because we could do that. I think we have enough.
I don't think we can. Like, what are we left with? 60?
Not.
Yeah, because then we're going to be playing like 3-4K guys, and I don't even know if there's like one I feel good about. So yeah, I don't know that we can go to Embiid. We already have Murray, right?
Yeah, we got Murray in there.
I mean, I like the cheap Jimmy Butler, 7,600.
Yeah, fills the small forward spot pretty easily there. We already have 3 Atlanta players, so that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Now what are we working with? 6,600 per.
I think we go Bridges or Johnson. Bridges for now, if we need to get
let's go Bridges. We're heavy Atlanta. I like the Bridges play.
Then I don't know. I do like Zach Collins. I do.
Go for it.
But it's such an early build that we have here.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue too. I mean, you could build this and then go out and enjoy your Friday night.
Yeah,
But
for
yeah, I
real.
mean, uh, yeah, at his price, Collins does make sense. Again, I'm just worried about the minutes with Pop and he's chalk, but I mean,
I see the
logic.
play.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the data likes him, so I don't know. It's tough to argue with.
I see the play here with if we're playing Zach Collins, it's Devin Vassell there at 6.7. So
Oh
two
yeah.
game stack. There we go.
Hey, yeah, and then just don't watch the leaderboard, and you'll be in first for a while. Just hope the late games all blow out or
Yes.
go poorly.
Obviously, so if Simons is out, that does make that build probably terrible because Brogdon and Scoot become good plays. But we do have some more questions here. So Emma's wondering about the FanDuel slate. I'll kind of let you handle that
Yeah,
because you play more on FanDuel.
I don't play late slates all that often unless I'm like pissed off and I'm chasing losses, which is something you
Yeah.
should never do. But yeah, I'll say definitely just keep an eye on the news first and foremost. One thing I wouldn't do here, and maybe this comes back to bite me, is play Spencer Dinwiddie. There's a bunch of news stories out today that he's like playing poorly on purpose because he wants out of Brooklyn, which is insane because that's like the one franchise that's ever treated him well. But yeah, maybe just don't play Dinwiddie. If you have to play the Nets, I think Claxton's a good price. Reeves and D'Lo look good on those late games. And then yeah, if we get news that Simons is out, Brogdon's going to be a really good play. I like Ayton, and then Indiana is just really expensive, so they're going to be tough to get to. But yeah, you're talking about a 2 game slate, so it's going to be tough to find good plays. But again, I think you're stuck going balanced. There's no like clear cut value there.
Yeah. I will say, like, I do like Siakam as a risk reward play
Mm.
tonight, regardless of the slate, and maybe that just becomes more in play on that type of slate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then we did have another question here. Who are your top 3 small forwards on DraftKings specifically? We have the data here to do that for you. Here, let's see here.
It's Bay, Bogdanovich, and Vassell, right? Or
Well, in
terms of upside, okay.
I don't know. That's a good question. But it's Tatum, LeBron, Jaylen Brown in terms of value. Let's see. Bay, Prince. I don't really love that. And then Butler.
Yeah, yeah. I would probably leave Prince out of that group. He's kind of boomer bust, but otherwise, I agree.
Yeah. Is Lonnie Walker a good play tonight?
On that 2 game slate, I don't think it's crazy. You can't count on his minutes. Sure, there's some revenge narrative there if you want to play it. But yeah, again, on a 2 game slate, there's no value. But he only played 18 minutes last game. You're not really guaranteed to get run. And again, that 18 minutes came in a game that came down to the buzzer. So it's not like it was a blowout or anything like that. So yeah, you can play him on a 2 game slate. Do I think he's safe? No. But do I think he's safer than other cheap plays? Yes, probably. So yeah, I don't mind it. I'd honestly rather go to Dennis Smith Jr. if you could find a little bit of extra. But again, we're talking about a 2 game slate here. You're really kind of, I don't know, splitting hairs.
All right, so I think we should close out this video with just kind of going back over this Charlotte situation, just kind of refreshing it. Again, guys, Nick is going to be in the Discord chat before lock, so he's double dipping tonight. So probably ending right at 5:30 here. So let's jump into Charlotte again. So PJ Washington, I'm looking at a projected starting lineup that has been projected to start now. Don't know if that's true.
I know, I'm seeing different ones everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I see one that is Mensa, one that is Washington. I think it's going to be one of those two. They could go Bridges and then slide Martin in. But yeah, like I said, I think Washington's going to see increased run regardless. I like him as a play no matter what, so you could feel good about that. But if Mensa gets to start, again, on a slate we have no value anywhere, I do think he makes some sense. Probably has to play over 20 minutes.
Got the starting lineup from Charlotte. Ball, Rozier, Miller, Bridges, Washington.
Love Washington. Washington's a core play. I do not like Mensa very much at all. I think he doesn't have to play many minutes here. Again, the Spurs are without Wemby. Collins is probably going to play limited minutes. Both teams are going to be playing relatively small, but that's not going to hurt Washington. Definitely play a lot of PJ Washington tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to have to. I'm glad this is a fast video because I do have to do some lineup changes here, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than you would hope. Sometimes.
I know.
We got one last question here, and then we'll probably get out of here. Patty Mills. This feels like a Javon Carter question to me. Obviously with Chuck taking down the GPP with
Yep.
Javon Carter.
Yeah, I actually had a friend ask me about Patty Mills earlier today, and it's tricky. He's not in the regular rotation. Like Trent Forrest and AJ Griffin are getting minutes ahead of him, but we have seen at times that like coaches like to leave their rotations in place. So if someone like Trey is out, maybe he does come in and take up maybe 15, 20 minutes, but there's no guarantee of that. I don't know. I don't feel great about it. If you're getting to him in like large field contests and you're playing a bunch of lineups, fine. But if you're only playing a lineup or two, I would not touch Patty Mills. He's very, 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 very risky, but again, on a slate with no value, sometimes you don't need the value to do much to take down a contest. Like you said, with Javon Carter the other night for our boy Chuck. 8 points, he had him in a winning lineup that netted him like, what, a few grand? So,
yeah
it can work out.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. He's min price. He's a veteran there. If they choose to give him extra run, it's not too crazy. But like honestly, I would rather go. You're talking me into Mensa, and I know you didn't even mean to do that, but
I mean, I'm scared now off the bench, honestly. So proceed with caution on that.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping for a blowout there. I am.
Okay.
But it's 4.5 points. it's the Spurs. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. But guys, that is going to be it for today's live stream. I appreciate you guys being here. Remember, we're going to be in the Discord chat pretty much right when Nick is ready to go, pretty much because he's double dipping tonight. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Thanks for watching. Being here at the same time tomorrow. When you do, hit the like button right when you jump in.
Take care, everyone.